Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about Hidizs XO. It's a small DAC costing just $99 but don't discard it just yet because it has something to show. Okay, so Hidizs XO is a small portable DAC, as you can see. Looking from the outside, there's not much to talk about when it comes to XO. We have one USB-C input, and that's it basically. Using that one you can connect it to your phone, maybe a laptop or something like that, anything that has USB output. You have this small USB-C cable in the box, but there's also a USB to USB-A adapter, so you can connect it to basically anything. Well, except Apple devices. In that case you have to purchase Thunderbolt cable. But yeah, they're going to switch to USB-C soon also, like everybody else, so that will not be an issue anymore. On the output side we have two outputs. One is 3.5 millimeters, that's your traditional unbalanced or single-ended out, and we also have 2.5 millimeters balanced out. And this is a fully balanced design using two separate DAC chips. They're coming from Sabre. I'll put that on the screen. And it has separate amplifiers, headphone amps inside, so if you are using balanced output, you do get double the power of the single-ended one. And that said, single-ended output is basically powerful enough for almost every in-ear model that I've tried with this one, so you don't have to worry about it. It's as powerful as any DAC dongle of this size that I've reviewed on this channel, like previous Hidizs, Audio Direct, Moondrop, but we'll talk about those a little bit later when I do comparisons, so stay with me to find out how this one compares to everything. For now, I wanted to show you one feature that really sets this DAC apart from the others. And when you connect it to your phone, it lights this small O circle. It lights in different colors depending on is it waiting for a connection to happen? Is it already connected? Like in my case, that's green. And when you play your music, it will change colors depending on the sample rate, or are you playing, I don't know, MQA, which is also supported by this DAC if you care about it. I will not talk about colors that much. But the interesting thing here is X button that you can press and then change. I hope that you can see this. You can change RGB effects. They're on both sides of this DAC, and there are several modes that you can engage. And these side lights, they do not show you anything about the signal being played. They do not carry any information. They're just here to be cool if you think like this gamer styling is cool. Fortunately, they can be completely disabled if you want to do that. It saves a little bit of power, I suppose, and it simply doesn't look like anything gamers, basically, because, you know, RGB, that's like Gamers Nation. And I should know, I'm a gamer too, but I'm not into RGB, so yeah, sorry. And the last thing that I wanted to mention regarding features is that you can switch between, it seems like 3 different digital filters for the signal by clicking this O button, and you can see blue, green or red circle lighting up. And I have to be perfectly honest here, I can barely notice any differences between these digital filters. With some DACs that's much more pronounced, but with this one it has a really subtle influence on the overall sound signature, and in most cases I wasn't even sure that I pressed the button. That's how close it is. And that leads me to how does a Hidizs XO actually sound. So Hidizs XO sounds very detailed, clear, open and airy. And if I had to make this review the shortest review that I ever did, I would say those 4 words and be done with it. And that character persisted while I was changing several different earphones and just bigger headphones, etc. Because I always felt it's very skillful with retrieving details. And I'm not talking only about those edges and that very obvious clarity, but also there is quite a bit of those inner tone details. So if we are talking about vocals, for example, there's quite a bit of that inner texture, that nice sandy quality to vocals that have sandy quality, of course. And you definitely feel that this is one highly resolving deck. And it also has quite a bit of liveliness and energy going on. So everything sounds quite detailed and attractive too when you listen to Hidizs XO. And highest frequencies are well extended. I feel that there's a nice sense of air around you that comes from those highest frequencies, that atmosphere in tracks. And then bassline, it's just okay. I wouldn't call it particularly deep, but it's not lacking either. Bassline is not on a heavy or warm side, but it's also not too lean. There's like just the right amount of it, I would say. Maybe it is a little bit more on a speedy and grippy side of things than it is on that weighty full side of things. And all of that combined together makes for this fast, precise, open character of XO. It also makes for a pretty good layering and separation of tones, and the sound stage is quite decent. It's reasonably wide and airy. It's not particularly deep, because that sense of depth usually comes from listening to like low frequency reverb, and that is like that deep hall effect. And this one, being open and airy, has atmospheric sound stage. There's air, you feel the space, it's not too congested, but it doesn't have especially emphasized sense of depth when something is just echoing far away from you. That's not all that pronounced, but it's also not bad at all. And that actually leads me to pairing. I wouldn't pair it with particularly bright sounding in-ears. For example, let's say Thin HiFi T3 or P1 Plus, if I'm getting the name correctly. Those are already really tidy with the bass line. I would even say they're lacking a little bit of bass oomph and body, and they're quite bright and open up top. And combining earphones that sound like that with a DAC like this, I think it would just be too sharp and too bright. On the other hand, if you use something more balanced, the sound will just become quick and nimble in a positive way. And being this kind of quick, speedy, bright, open and airy DAC as it is, it matches really well with slightly bassier in-ears and slightly fatty sounding in-ears too. For example, I enjoyed Moondrop Aria Snow that are slightly fuller sounding with it quite a bit, but I didn't enjoy Moondrop Stellaris that are more analytical sounding and hot in highs. With this DAC, that was just too much. But pair it with any just nicely balanced or slightly warmer sounding headphones or in-ears, and it will sound really great. And that actually leads me to comparisons. And I'm guessing that most of you would want to know how does it compare to S9 Pro, which was priced exactly the same and released some maybe 2 to 3 years ago. And I do not have that one with me anymore, but I'll make some conclusion based on the other DAC that I used to have at the same time as S9 Pro. And that is Audio Direct Beam 3 Pro. That's one that costs $150, and I kept it because I thought it sounded better than S9 Pro, and also that they're in the same ballpark price-wise, even though this one is actually 50% more expensive, but it sounded more incisive, it layered better, and it had more energy with edges it was just a livelier and better controlled sounding DAC compared to S9 Pro. And now, when I compare XO and Beam 3 Pro, I actually, they're so similar sounding that if I do not focus my attention and I do not listen to both of these very critically, I can barely tell the difference. And I just don't want to repeat everything that I've already told you about XO, because these two basically sound the same. And given that Beam 3 Pro is 50% more expensive, I would say that's a pretty good situation for XO. And that also tells me that it is definitely a better sounding, slightly more revealing, slightly more better controlled when it comes to the bass line, and it's layering and separating things happening in the sound stage a little bit better than S9 Pro did. Because as I said, I had S9 Pro and Beam 3 Pro at the same time for quite some time. Last thing that I did, I compared XO with Moondrop Moonriver 2, which is 179, I believe, currently. And that is a DAC that sounds better and slightly fuller, slightly lusher. Soundstage expands a little bit. There's like more empty room around the instruments, and just everything feels slightly more natural. It's equally revealing, but a little bit less edgy. A little bit less sharp in highs and mid-range, just kind of smoother and more natural sounding. Now, the difference is not big. I'm explaining this to you so you can get the gist of the difference, but the scale of it is not huge. What can I tell you should you get one or the other? I would say that if you're rocking, let's say, in-ears up to $100 US, something really nice like Moondrop Aria Snow, for example, those work really well with XO. And jumping to Moonriver 2, I'm not sure that you would notice much of a difference. But when I was comparing these two with some pricier, maybe around $200 US in-ears, C Audio Bravery is something I still use, because I used several earphones, but I cannot remember all of those names. That difference, that gap, is noticeable a little bit more. And all of that actually puts Hidizs XO in a really, really good place, in my opinion. Because for $100 US, it sounds really, really nice. It's open, it's revealing, it's airy, and you just remember that it is on a slightly grippier and more open, brighter side of things, so you should avoid combining it with earphones or headphones that have that exact same sound signature, because it might be a little bit too much. Other than that, it's a pretty great sounding device that beats anything that I've previously heard at that price point. And I know that some of you that do not follow my channel regularly would probably ask, how about something like Dragonfly Black? Well, this sounds much, much better. It's just noticeably more resolving than what Dragonfly Black can do. And that would be all for today, guys. If you like this video, you know what to do. Also comment down below if you have any thoughts, and see you next time. Bye.